Older generations of Reddit. What toys did you have as a child that would be considered too dangerous to be given to a child today? My dentist used to give me vials of mercury to bring to school for show and tell. My parents bought me a rock collection at a natural history museum that included a chunk of asbestos from which you could pull fibrous material. We also had metal trucks with extremely sharp edges and lead-based paint jobs. My sister brought a vial of mercury home from science class. They sent it home with the kids, and we played with it rolling it around in our hands. Ohio blue tip matches. My grandma let us carry the box out her back door to burn crap. Strike anywhere. Boom fire. Not sure how I survived. I have a crayon melter that melts crayons and lets you pour it into molds so you could make your own crayons and rings. Turns out production stopped because of a failure to stop the heater from being turned on if the lid was opened. Those were so much fun we would pretend we were blacksmiths when taking them out of the molds. I had a large red plastic toy box that looked like a treasure chest in my bedroom closet growing up. When I was around 7, late at night the toy box would start taking to me from the closet, calling my name, Michael, in a low, creaky voice. For weeks, I was terrified to fall asleep because I knew I'd wake up to the voice again. Yet every morning when the sun filled my room I'd open the lid to the box and it would just be toys, like it should be. Finally, I was able to convince my mom that I wasn't making it up, and got her to sleep in my room that night with me, and shortly thereafter she woke me up with "Michael, wake up, I hear it." Long story short, we discovered it was my talking kit with very low batteries, talking away in slow motion by itself. I don't know if those should be illegal, but I definitely feel like the experience damaged me. Props to your mom for actually listening to you though, even if it took a while to convince her. I know a lot of parents that wouldn't have. We had these weird fake cigarettes that actually allowed you to blow smoke that was quite realistic. We freaked out a lot of adults with them. A chemistry set. My brother and I were totally unsupervised and never followed the instructions. We just mixed chemicals together at random to see what would happen. I remember one combination turned into this really smelly black foam-like substance. My dad and his brothers didn't have a chemistry set, but their father did let them play with mercury in his workshop. They also taught themselves to make zip guns. I think they were called. Basically, guns crafted from parts like car antennas. I made some blow liquidy stuff with my chemistry set doing that. It got on my hands and the furniture and wouldn't come out. And that was around the time my parents realized it probably wasn't a great idea to let a 10-year-old play with random chemicals. I had an incredibly heavy metal square looking robot that spit smoke it produced from burning oil. It smelled noxious and was heavy enough it could have easily been a murder weapon. I had one of those too. So cool, I can still remember how it smelled. In the late 90s my elementary school had a metal slide about 15 feet tall, the ladder to climb up, and the railing around the 1 foot wide platform at the top were made of skinny metal tubing that got slick AF when it was wet. The sides of the slide were about 6 inches tall, super easy to just go over the edge. Several kids fell or were pushed off over the years when I was there. One boy had to be hospitalized not once, not twice, but 3 times after jumping off it. Around 2001 the school tore it down and replaced it with an extremely lame plastic slide about 8 feet tall, with sides about 1 foot tall. Oh, and I have a children's science textbook from the 1930s that describes all sorts of experiments with electricity kids can do with the power outlets in their home. What could go wrong? We also had a death slide. In the right conditions you could fly 6-8 feet off the landing. As for electrical outlets, my parents used to give us old keys to play with, and we would stick them in the outlets because it looked like an ignition. I have no idea how I never shocked the crap out of myself. I never owned one, but you could buy a radioactive science kit that came with real radioactive material and a Geiger counter. My father had one of those. We were just talking about it and that's actually why I asked this question. Haha, they were popular in the 50s. Toymax die-cast factory metal molder. My mom got me one of these from a garage sale when I was 7-8. Essentially you melt down scrap metal, screws, bolts, BBs, whatever you have, then tip the melting area into a rubber mold. Stick it in the fridge and boom, neat little metal trinket. I used to love making these. There was a flame, skull, and a rifle mold that I remember using the most. But you know what I remember even more than those molds? All the burns on my hands and that one time I caught the carpet on fire. LMAO. No shot these would sell today. Haha. Tried to link mobile won't let me, but if you Google image it you'll be able to find it easily. Rocks, more specifically those small playground pebbles. We had a game on the playground where we would have rock wars. 2 teams, everyone loses. There were rules of course, like no throwing handfuls directly at the opposing team. You had to throw it up like a mortar and let it rain down on the enemy. If you say you are done, no one can attack you until you come back. There was a line on the ground that the teams couldn't cross, etc. Breaking the rules means that everyone targeted you for the remainder of the game. Thankfully most small kids cannot throw rocks that hard or accurately from a distance. I'm not even old. This happened in the early 90s. Skydancers were banned if I recall correctly. Beyblades were banned from school. Both had the habit of spinning into children's eyes and blinding them. I freaking loved skydancers. I had a set of clackers, and the bruised and swollen wrists and elbows that go along with learning how to use them. Not sure many people today would even know what those were, though. Just looked them up. Apparently they would also eventually shatter, sending glass into the face of the person playing with them. M80s, they were like a extra powerful firecracker, supposedly 1/8 of a stick of dynamite. We would use them to literally blow stuff up, like sending garbage cans into the air or blowing street signs off their posts. They were really a lot of fun for us early teenage boys. Bottle rockets, too. Even the ladder finger firecrackers could do some harm, lighting them and throwing them up in the air. One boy didn't throw high enough and it came down into another boy's shirt and exploded on his back. He had an interesting looking scar from that. We used to hang steel wool on a modified wire hanger, then light and spin it. Hot metal going all over the place. How did I survive childhood? I'm honestly surprised any of us survived our childhoods. The Whammo company specialized in toys you'd break your mom's favorite lamp with. They made a jet plane about 8 inches long that didn't fly, but when you pushed a button the pilot shot up and out by a spring and floated back to Earth on a parachute. When the parachute ripped, one day, we took it off, held the plane vertically and ran around shooting the pilot at each other. You could even have said, "You'll put your eye out, kid." When I was 8, I got this helicopter toy that you launched by pulling a string on the launch stick. The string would turn a shaft attached to the copter to get the blades turning fast enough to make it fly. The string was too short for me, so, in order to make the thing fly higher I tied a 5-foot string to the helicopter launch stick. Then I had my little brother hold the launch stick and I pulled the string as hard as I could. The bottom of the launch stick pointed at me when I pulled the string, which meant the helicopter was pointed straight at my little brother's face. It launched alright. The metal blades of the copter sliced both his top and bottom lip and took out a chunk of his nose. Needless to say, the butt whipping handed to me after my dad got back from the hospital was incredibly memorable. Chemistry set with some fun to play with mercury. A wood burning set to burn your address into a piece of wood or into your hand. A metal casting set to make molten lead to make army soldiers with or to burn blisters into your finger. My mom was disappointed she couldn't buy us a lead soldier casting kit when we were young. Dad tried to make up for it by melting lead fishing weights for our Pinewood Derby cars. It lacked the frequency of exposure, though. 3-wheeled ATVs killed so many people in the early 1980s that they had become banned in some countries. Shortly before their decline here in Canada, mid to late 1980s, my family owned 2 of them. I can remember several times where myself and my 2 brothers rolled them onto our heads' necks. Luckily none of us were very seriously hurt. But now that I have kids, I would never let them use a 3-wheeler. Yup, I know a family who lost a kid on an ATC in the 80s. I'm only 33, but do they still sell crazy carpets? Because I know plenty of people got absolutely fricked up by one of those as a kid. Personally, I flew off a 20-foot embankment when I was like 5. Thankfully I was made of rubber and didn't have any actual injuries. No idea, but my elementary school had them for recess in the winter. How nobody ever got seriously hurt and sued the school as a result is beyond me. Wrist rockets, using BB shot or larger ball bearings. Wicked. Eater, surprised at all the love for wrist rockets. Eater 2. After reading some comments, I checked out Amazon. You can now get a wrist rocket with a laser sight, some serious hardware there, not the ones I was remembering from the 1960s. Fisher Price people that aren't 3 across. My friend had a tandem bike that weighed more than we did. We would wobble around our very, very small town at will. No helmets, no nothing, just an 8 and a 10-year-old girl going up to the post office by ourselves on an ancient steel frame to get a carbonated beverage, lawn darts, BB guns, CO2 cartridges filled with gunpowder aka crater makers. I guess that last one isn't a toy per se. We did a lot of stuff like that to make our own fun that would get CPS called in today. Dude, those old Fisher Price people were the best. I had the Daniel Boone costume kit that included a coonskin cap, knife and hatchet. The knife and hatchet were real, not toys. Super soakers were getting a little out of control from the mid-90s to the early 2000s. They held a ton of water and felt like someone was spraying you with a pressure washer. Hitting someone in the eyes would temporarily blind them, and crying wasn't uncommon. Slip and slides were also pretty rough when a rock poked up through the plastic and caught your stomach after a 30-foot head start. So much blood. My 7th grade teacher told us a story about his brother's sack getting torn BC. It got caught on a stick that was underneath the makeshift garbage bag water slides they used to make. The stick literally pierced his bag sack. Playground equipment like seesaws, merry-go-round, and metal slides. I once burned a layer of skin off my thighs going down a hot metal slide, summer in Georgia, in shorts. The old merry-go-rounds were great. You started spinning it fast enough and kids would just start flying off, or start throwing up. I loved that thing. IDK if anyone has said it yet, but the old B-blades. The ones with the sharp metal on them and would slice up your hands when you tried to pick it up while it was still spinning, lol. My cousin once sent one into a wall because it flew off his kitchen table. We had these banned from school because a kid got his eye torn out by one. I think certain models of Beyblades were actually banned in my country, or at least they were talked about being banned. My grandfather taught us mumble peg. You each have your pocket knife, or you may use hatchets for the expert level. Stand about 5 feet apart with legs spread a little wider than shoulder width. Toss sharp objects at the feet of your opponent. First to get hit wins. Yes, I played this with him. Yes, he had a brother then lost a toe. Lawn darts and wood burning kits. I remember throwing the dates straight up into the air and standing under them and dodging it at the last moment. It's a wonder we didn't end up with one in the head. Also, wood burning kits. Basically a soldering iron that was used to burn thin pieces of wood to make art. Luckily never set anything on fire. Survival knife. We all had these after the Rambo movies. 7 inches serrated blade, compass on the hilt, a garrote you could take off in case you had to strangle someone, and matches in the hilt. Woe be to the communist who tried to raid the suburbs that summer. Oh man, the memories of survival knives. The $10 investment that got the awesome wire saw that would cut one branch before breaking. That was merchandising done right. I enjoyed it for years. Made a spear that could kill a wild hog. Good times. I did figure out that if you tightened the nut at the bottom of the hollow handle and pour a little epoxy into it, it never came loose again. Fisher Price people. They still have them, but they're no longer sized to fit exactly into a small child's pharynx. Everything else had to be scaled to fit the new fat ones. Garages with only 2 levels instead of 3. The plane was all wrong. The castle didn't have the oubliette and the swing out stairs. And as with any little girl, the curvy blue blonde ponytailed mom was my ideal for what I'd look like as a grown up, except with legs. At my grandparents' house they still have a set of wooden Fisher Price people. Those were the crap. My grandfather showed us how to take a plastic soda bottle and cut it in half horizontally. Then you take a balloon and put the shaft of the balloon over the mouth of the bottle and leave the ball of the balloon just dangling there. Then you take a bean or a small rock, drop it down, let it land in the balloon, pull back and fire. Of course, our targets were each other. Good times. 1. Toy gun that looked like a real gun. No joke. 2. A bug catching kit with hypodermic needle and formaldehyde. 3. A chemistry set with caustic materials. 4. Air rifle that I figured out how to use like a shotgun by dropping extra BBs down the barrel and I could use it to shoot homemade darts. 5. Clackers on a string before they made them safe. Of course I built all kinds of stick weapons growing up. The toy guns that looked real. Good call. Blows my mind, but yeah, we had a whole basket full of them for when you played army. My great grandfather used to build the old wooden roller coasters at amusement parks. Back in the day they didn't have crash test dummies, so they would put my dad and my aunt on them to test them. My aunt got a broken arm by getting tossed off a spinning rocket ship ride. Those were the days when everyone had 8 to 12 kids, so I guess losing a few wasn't such a big deal. Cap guns that looked like real guns. Desert Eagle pistol had wood grips with slight gloss. The cap centered in a magazine from the bottom of the grip. No red cap on barrel. All black. Even a safety toggle for the trigger. AK-47 automatic water guns where again, water is in the magazine and you pop it in and go. If it didn't look very real, kids weren't into it. Then cops started accidentally shooting kids a lot and that all went bye-bye. Jokes on the cops. I paint the ends of my real guns like a red cap. Kidding, I live in Australia. We don't have guns. We just throw dangerous animals at each other instead. Slap bracelets. The old ones had a sharp piece of metal inside them and those suckers hurt. And of course we didn't just wear them. That was no fun. We had to have full on playground wars and come in from recess with our arms all torn up. Also I knew 2 different kids who broke their ankles using a skip it. Thank goodness I was an indoor kid. Those things would have been a disaster for my clumsy butt. That sharp piece of metal. I heard they were made from recycled tape measures. Any toddler pull toy with a long string. Nowadays strings aren't longer than 6 inches, I think. Easy bake oven. That 100-watt light bulb could burn. That telephone with a face on it. Still make, but you have to bring the base 3 inches from your face in order to put the headset to your ears. What rolls downstairs, alone or in pairs, and rolls over your neighbor's dog? What's great for a snack, and fits on your back? It's log, log, log. It's log, log. It's big, it's heavy, it's wood. It's log, log. It's better than bad. It's good. Everyone wants a log. You're gonna love it. Log. Come on and get your log. Everyone needs a log. Log, 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 log. From Blammo. My older brother had an original Erector set from 1975. It's just toy scrap metal pieces with 1,000 tiny screws, nuts, and bolts to possibly choke on or stick in a light socket. Not that we ever tried. Erector sets were great. Def helped me learn how to build stuff. I'm a very hands-on DIY person, and Erector sets are probably why. I'm 13, but my mother told me about how old Mr. Potato Head bits had real metal spikes that you stuck into an actual potato. Freaky man. Our first set, back in the 60s, belonged to our parents when they were small. I got a perfume making kit for Christmas when I was 9. You could mix all these chemicals together to make the first smell. Could have been toxic. This was 1959. My dad told me about how him and his brother would break thermometers and play with the mercury growing up. What's really funny and ironic about this is that when I was a senior in high school, a kid dropped a thermometer in his science class and they shut down the entire science wing in the school for the rest of the day to decontaminate. We had sealed plastic mazes where you used a magnet mounted on a pencil-sized stick to move the ball of mercury around the maze. When they broke, the mercury got out and ended up on the floor. No one cared. Super elastic bubble plastic. It was a goo in a tube that you squirted onto the end of a straw and you could blow giant marbled bubbles. Problem is it was made of noxious chemicals like polyvinyl acetate and acetone, so you almost got high off it. chemistry set, though I'm nowhere near the age to play with the home atomic power kits or the radioactive stuff. I definitely got to play with a bottle of powdered arsenic and other similar poisons and toxins. I miss those really complete kits. Guns that look like guns. I'm about 40 now, and I remember going to Toys R Us and there was a section of rifles that you could absolutely mistake for the real thing. I think the first step towards remedying that was an orange tip, but it wasn't too long after that gun started to look more like Nerf than the real thing. I had the wood burning kits, a play oven that did not have a good guard, and real nunchucks. Dang, those things hurt. We also had a trampoline that had no side guards. I got a concussion from falls. We also rode our dirt bikes, 3-wheelers and quads without helmets. I watched my next door neighbor die when I was 6 and he was 10 when he wrecked his bike outside of our house. My brothers got a soldering iron. I don't remember anyone getting burned. This reminds me of Consumer Probe with Dan Aykroyd selling a bag of glass. I am old. Big sigh. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.